Jordan's POV. His terror arrived before he did. VIPS, check. Champagne flutes, check. Hors d'oeuvres arranged in perfect symmetry, well, mostly check. Music playlists synced with the lighting cues, probably check. Emergency napkins in every server's hand, oh god, maybe not. And me? Trying not to trip over my own feet, definitely not check. Because why not? I was Salaar Chase's assistant, the guy who demanded perfection like oxygen, and after a year under him, I'd learned one unshakable truth. I was chaos walking, a disaster in a tailored suit. And tonight, in the glittering Gala hall under 1,000 crystal chandeliers, I was about to face the man himself. Chest tightening, not from the skyline sparkling through floor-to-ceiling windows, not from the hum of high-profile clients sipping champagne, but from the simple fact that Salaar Chase, my boss, would be here. Back from a month in Vance, leaving the office in a quiet panic without him, and just thinking about it made my palms sweat. I'd survived a year as his assistant, navigating his sharp words, sharper glances, and the uncanny way he always seemed to notice when I was about to screw something up. There was the time I misfiled a contract and he caught it before the client even opened the email, raising an eyebrow like he'd expected it all along. Or the night he cornered me in the office, gray eyes piercing, and whispered, "If you make one more careless mistake, Dawson, you won't just be apologizing to me." I hadn't forgotten. How could I? That blend of intimidation and something else. Something magnetic. Dangerous. And thrilling. I tugged at my tie for the third time, trying to steady the tremor in my fingers. 1 year of memorizing his preferences, surviving his critiques, dodging his piercing stare, and yet I still felt like a rookie every time he was near. I could hear the soft murmur of servers, clinking glasses, the laughter of colleagues I didn't know, and all I could think about was the man returning from Vance, all sleek suits and perfection, who had somehow managed to haunt my thoughts even when he was continents away. And then, there he was. Salaar Chase, perfectly tailored suit, black hair slicked back, gray eyes scanning the room like he owned it. And maybe he did. I froze, a stupid, clumsy deer caught in the headlights of his presence. My stomach did a slow flip, and I was painfully aware of every errant hair on my chestnut head, the dampness of my palms against the stem of my wine glass. He didn't smile, ever, but there was a faint curve to his lips, just enough to make me question whether I imagined it or whether he knew exactly how flustered I was. I took a shaky step forward, determined to greet him when disaster struck. One hand on my glass, one hand holding a tray of hors d'oeuvres, and somehow, miraculously, I managed to collide with a server carrying a decanter of red wine. The glass slipped. Time slowed. My heart stopped as the dark liquid arced through the air in a perfect, terrifying parabola, landing directly on Salaar's pristine white shirt. For a moment, the world froze. I could hear my own panicked heartbeat over the gasp of the room, the soft gasp of the woman next to me, the polite cough of someone who didn't know whether to intervene or flee. Salaar didn't flinch, didn't scold, didn't even twitch. The wine spread in a shocking red bloom across his chest, and I was certain the universe was laughing at me. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I stammered, hands shaking violently, eyes darting around for napkins, towels, something, anything. My face burned hotter than the city lights outside. Every memory of a past year of mishaps flashed through my mind. The dropped reports, the missent emails, the coffee stains he'd noticed before I did. And now this. Salaar's gray eyes met mine. There was no fury, no lecture. Just that unreadable smirk, the one that made me feel like a moth hovering over fire. His voice, calm and low, slid across the room in a way that made my knees weaken. "We'll discuss this privately later," he said. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. My hands clutched at the stem of the empty wine glass, shaking so badly I thought I might drop it. Confusion, dread, and, God help me, a strange, thrilling flicker of attraction tore through me. Privately? My brain screamed. What does that even mean? And yet, even as my stomach twisted in panic, part of me couldn't look away. Salaar Chase, standing there with red wine blooming over white silk, the faintest curve to his lips, commanding the entire room with a single glance, was the kind of problem I had been drawn to since day one. I just never expected to find myself covered in wine in the middle of it. Next day, I walked into the office the morning after the gala, feeling like a walking disaster. My shirt was ironed, my tie straight, and my chest tight with anticipation. God, I couldn't stop thinking about Salaar. Even now, hours after the wine incident, the image of him standing there, red wine splattered across crisp white silk, that smirk, the way his gray eyes had drilled into mine. I could still feel it crawling under my skin. Salaar was already at his desk, reviewing reports like nothing had happened, but his presence made the air around him thick. My fingers fumbled with my laptop bag as I passed by, careful not to bump into him, careful not to breathe too loud. And then, gosh, he looked up, gray eyes locking onto mine with that predatory calm, just a flicker of amusement in his gaze. My heart thumped so hard I was sure he could hear it across the room. "Morning, Dawson," he said, voice low, smooth, and somehow coated in a dangerous kind of warmth. My pulse spiked. The sound alone had me imagining how it would feel if he leaned closer, if he... No, stop, Jordan. Stop thinking like that. I tried to focus on my tasks, but every glance at him was a freaking challenge. He moved like he owned the air, all sharp suits and sharper angles, and even sitting behind that massive oak desk, he radiated control I couldn't hope to match. And yet, part of me wanted to stay away from him. I wasn't sure about this pull, but I knew he was untouchable out of my league. The first subtle interaction came with my coffee delivery. Salaar rarely drank anything other than black, no sugar, no cream, yet he'd asked me to bring it warm, not boiling, Dawson, like your brain cells. Handle carefully, I muttered a nervous, yes, sir, spilling a tiny drop on the corner of his desk as I set the cup down. He reached out, brushing the tip of my finger with his, eyes catching mine with a dangerous glint. "Careful, Dawson," he murmured, voice dropping lower than necessary. "Try not to make another mess." I froze. My face was already burning, and my chest tightened like I'd just run a marathon in heels. I'm sorry, I stammered, words stumbling out like my brain had short-circuited. I wanted to crawl under his desk, disappear, and maybe never return. And yet, the way his thumb lingered just a second too long on my knuckle, Jesus, it was enough to make my brain frenzy, an involuntary reaction that made my stomach twist and my mind scream, "Oh my God, why are you thinking like that?" The day stretched painfully. Every email I sent, every report I handed him, every time I passed his office, there was that invisible thread tugging at my nerves. A subtle glance lingered a beat too long, a casual brush against my shoulder when he reached for a file, that almost smile when I fumbled through client notes. The teasing was deliberate, calculated, and entirely fucking maddening. I hated how much it made me want him, hated how flustered and hot under the collar I got from a goddamn look. I stole a quiet moment in the stairwell, leaning against the wall, trying to breathe. What the hell was happening to me? I'd spent a year fearing him, admiring him, trying not to mess up in front of him, and now I couldn't stop thinking about how those broad shoulders would feel pressed against mine, how his lips might taste if he decided to kiss me in front of God and everyone. A memory flashed. A night in the office when it was just us, him reviewing my reports while leaning so close I could smell his cologne. The time he caught my gaze on him and didn't look away. The time I'd almost bump into him and he'd smirked instead of yelling, saying, "You're reckless, Dawson," And I love it. My body remembered it all. My brain wanted to run. My heart wanted to stand at attention. But my mind? Heck, my mind warned me not to go in the lane that has no hope. By the time the afternoon rolled around, I knew one thing for certain: I was doomed. And it wasn't just because of the Gala spill. I was falling for my boss. Every teasing glance, every deliberate brush of his fingers against mine, every fucking word that dripped off his tongue like velvet and danger. Number. I have to hold on to my emotions. Yes, I will do my work and not anticipate the day he will finally discuss the spill of wine from the Gala with me. 3 days later, I had spent the last 3 days walking on eggshells. Every time Salaar passed me in the office, I stuck strictly to business, even when he said something that was clearly layered with double meaning. I stopped anticipating the said discussion he promised me on the Gala night, but my cheeks burned, my stomach twisted, every time he would comment in a playful way. But I clung to the excuse that this was professional conduct. I'd rehearsed every interaction in my head, and still, his presence made my pulse spike, my thoughts scatter. I could see the way his jaw tightened, the slight narrowing of his gray eyes. He was frustrated, and somehow, that only made me more aware of how much I wanted to crawl under that impossibly sharp gaze. Then the message came. My phone vibrated with his name flashing on the screen. Let's discuss the Gala wine spill. You owe me an apology. My office. After hours, my heart thumped so hard I was sure it echoed in the empty elevator. I stood frozen for a moment, rehearsing every possible apology. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. It was an accident. Please don't fire me. My palms sweated as I stared at the screen. Punishment, anger, humiliation, any of it was possible. I arrived at the office to find the lights dimmed, the usual harsh fluorescence replaced by the soft glow of city lights spilling through floor-to-ceiling windows. The skyline of New York twinkled behind him, and Salaar? Salaar was leaning against his desk, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. He looked human, like he'd stepped out of the intimidating, untouchable shell I'd spent a year under. But still, the way his broad shoulders filled the space, the way his gray eyes glinted in the dim light, I knew he could crush me with just a look. You've been avoiding me, he said, voice low, deliberate, curling around me like smoke. I haven't, I stammered, adjusting my tie, trying to look calm. I've been working. Salaar's eyes narrowed, and that smirk, half amused, half dangerous, curled on his lips. Dawson, don't lie. You've been avoiding more than just me. His step was deliberate as he closed the distance between us, each movement calculated, deliberate, intimate. You think you can hide behind reports and spreadsheets, but do you know how frustrating it's been? Watching you flounder, blush, hesitate. 1 year, 1 full year of driving me crazy with that flustered little expression of yours. Every time you smiled, every time you tripped over words or papers, I felt it, Jordan. Felt it like a storm I couldn't control. Don't you see the way I look at you? I opened my mouth to deny it, but my voice faltered. He was too close, too commanding. The warmth from his presence was invading my chest, my thoughts muddled. Don't deny, Dawson, he murmured, lowering his voice, close enough that I could feel the heat from his breath. Not now, at least. I know you feel the same way as I do. My fingers fumbled with the edge of my blazer, and somehow our hands brushed. The accidental touch sent a jolt through me, so sharp I thought I might yelp. My pulse raced, my mind went blank, and for the first time, I realized how badly I wanted him, despite, or maybe because of, the danger in wanting him. I thought back to smaller moments over the past year. The way he had lingered a second too long when correcting me. How his hand had brushed mine on a file transfer. The faint smirk when he'd made a comment only I could blush at. Every flashback hit with the same electric sting. And suddenly, the years of tension, the secret attraction, the suppressed desire. It all collided. Salaar leaned in closer, and I couldn't think, couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I braced myself because I realized I've been wanting him to. His fingers traced a line along my arm, brushing deliberately, teasingly, until my body betrayed me with a shiver. Then his lips were on mine. A slow, demanding kiss that made my knees go weak. My brain screamed both stop and yes at the same time. I tried to pull back as hesitation surged in, but he held me, grounding me in the heat of the moment. My chest heaved, and I realized I didn't want to escape. Not yet. Not ever, maybe. Guess I found a better way for you to make up for that spill, he whispered against my lips, his voice a husky caress that made my skin tingle from head to toe. I was a mess, stumbling words, tangled fingers, heart hammering in my ears, but I couldn't stop staring at him, couldn't stop wanting more. For the first time, the fear of the taboo didn't feel like a warning. It felt like an invitation I couldn't refuse. A week in, I'd told myself I'd be careful after that night in Salaar's office, that I'd stick to business and pretend the sparks weren't there in public. 3 days in, and I realized how laughably impossible that was. The first stolen moment came on a Monday morning. I was running late for a meeting, juggling a stack of reports, when Salaar appeared in the hallway, tie still slightly loose, a trace of cologne that made my head spin. "Late again, Dawson?" he drawled, eyes narrowing, but the smirk tugging at his lips made my knees weak. No, I mean, yes, but I stammered, dropping a folder in my panic. Papers fanned across the floor. He crouched to help me pick them up, brushing his fingers against mine. "Clumsy as always," he murmured, voice low, teasing, yet the heat in his gaze made my chest thump. I'll be more careful," I muttered, cheeks flaming, heart racing like a drum in my ears. His smirk softened. "Good, because I don't like accidents, unless they happen when I can watch." I nearly yelped, fumbling the papers again, and he chuckled quietly. It was maddening, that subtle duality. Cold, commanding in the office, and yet intimate, almost gentle when no one else was around. That night, I remembered why I'd been drawn to him from day one. Later that week, I caught a glimpse of his other side during a coffee run. I had just poured 2 cups, intending to deliver one to his office, when I noticed him standing near the break room doorway. "Jordan," he called softly, "bring it here. And don't spill." I walked over, hands shaking as I handed him the cup. I'll try not to," I mumbled, meeting his gray eyes. He studied me for a moment, then leaned slightly closer than necessary and whispered, "You always try so hard." It's endearing. Before I could reply, a new associate, Peter, approached him with a question, but his eyes lingered on me before he smiled. I smiled politely in return, but straightened up upon finding Salaar's jaw tightened subtly, a flash of possessiveness crossing his features. Peter excused himself quickly, but the tension lingered. My stomach twisted. Was he jealous? The thought made my pulse spike, or was it butterfly dancing in my stomach? Later, in an empty office after hours, the tension became unbearable. Papers and reports lay forgotten as Salaar leaned against the desk, eyes scanning me like he could see every secret desire I had buried. He stepped closer, just enough that his warmth brushed mine. "You know," he said low, "I've noticed how distracted you've been lately. Is it me?" "No, why would you feel that?" I chuckled nervously, unable to meet his eyes. He tilted my chin with his finger, making my breath hitch. "Tell me you feel the same as I feel." I froze. "Sir, we shouldn't... what we're feeling, it's wrong. I can't. People are going to gossip. It's Salaar for you." Salaar's gray eyes softened, then glinted with something dangerous and irresistible. "And wrong?" he echoed. "Do you really feel nothing, Jordan? Not even a spark?" I swallowed, heart pounding. I wanted to run, to hide, but my pulse betrayed me. I can't. We shouldn't. People would... Shh. He stepped closer, just enough that I could feel the heat radiating off him. I want to kiss you so bad. His voice dropped to a whisper, almost trembling. But you can pull away if you want, and I won't bother you again. My chest twisted. Part of me wanted to push him away, to scream that this was madness. But the other part, the part that had been simmering since the gala, since the day I'd first tripped over a report in front of him, wanted nothing more than to melt into him. I hesitated, lips barely moving as I searched his expression. There was patience there, but also raw, aching desire. I couldn't fight it. Slowly, reluctantly, I allowed his lips to brush mine. The kiss started soft, almost tentative, a test. I felt him searching, waiting for me to pull back, but I didn't. My hands rose, fingers tangling in the fabric of his shirt, and I let myself lean in, surrendering to the pull that had been impossible to ignore for the past year. He deepened the kiss then, not forcefully, but with a deliberate intensity that made my knees weak. I closed my eyes, heart hammering, thoughts scattering into nothingness except him, Salaar. The years of tension, of stolen glances, of flustered conversations, they all converged in this moment. We broke apart just enough for me to gasp, forehead resting against his chest. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe, he murmured, his hand cupping my jaw, thumb brushing my cheek. Or maybe it's exactly what we've both been waiting for. Over the next week, our nights became a secret rhythm. Him leaning in for whispered confessions, me trembling at his touch, both of us craving what we couldn't have in daylight. Apartment nights, empty office hours, quiet hallways, they became our universe, charged with tension, temptation, and unspoken promises. Yet the outside world wasn't entirely blind. I caught hushed whispers in the office one afternoon. Did you see Dawson hanging around Salaar's office late last night? I heard he's been getting all the good projects recently. Lucky him. I ignored it, blissfully wrapped up in the intensity of our secret. I didn't want to think about rumors. I didn't want to think about anything except the way Salaar's hands made my pulse race, the way his smirk could undo me with a glance, and the way I had surrendered to him completely and entirely without shame. Even in secrecy, even in the fear of exposure, I wanted him. Every touch, every glance, every whispered word pulled me deeper. I was clumsy, flustered, burning with desire, and somehow I had no desire to stop. Few days later, the tension between Salaar and me had somehow settled into something lighter, still charged, but less like a storm about to hit. Walking into the lobby that morning, I noticed Salaar standing by the elevator, coffee in hand, looking impossibly composed in a crisp navy suit. My chest did that familiar little flip. "Morning, Dawson," he said, voice smooth, eyes glinting with something I couldn't name. "Morning, sir," I replied, trying to keep it professional, even though my brain screamed that professionalism went out the window the second he was near. We were heading to a client meeting at a downtown cafe, a casual one, which was kind of a relief because high-powered boardrooms made me trip over my own shadow. I carried the folder of documents, while he seemed effortlessly in control of the world, striding ahead with that predator's grace he had perfected. The client meeting had gone surprisingly well. I'd managed not to spill coffee on Salaar, not to trip over my own feet, and even made a decent suggestion during the discussion. As the cafe quieted after our goodbyes, I started reaching for my notebook to jot down notes, but Salaar stopped me with a tilt of his head. "Jordan," he said, gray eyes glinting, "we're not going back to the office yet." I blinked at him, utterly confused. Okay. You mean the meeting's adjourned? We should head back?" He smirked, just the tiniest curve of his lips. "Not today." I think we deserve a small reward. I arched an eyebrow. Reward? For surviving the meeting without embarrassing ourselves? Because if that's the reward, I think I failed spectacularly anyway. Salaar chuckled softly, the sound low and amused, making my chest tighten. I'll let you decide what counts as embarrassing later. Right now, we're going on a detour. Before I could protest, he led me away from the cafe, and I realized we weren't walking back toward the office at all. Nope. Salaar had somehow rerouted us to the little Italian bistro across the street, our secret spot, if you will. I stopped in my tracks. Wait, are you seriously taking me on a date in the middle of a Tuesday? He looked down at me, smirk deepening. Is that a problem? Well, I started, pretending to think. I mean, I might have other plans, like, reorganizing the office supply closet or alphabetizing the client files. Important things? Salaar's lips twitched, his amusement barely contained. Jordan, you're terrible at lying. But the closet idea? Intriguing. Maybe we'll pencil it in after dessert. I laughed, walking beside him, feeling a giddy warmth spread through me. Dessert, huh? Are we talking something classy, like tiramisu, or dangerously chocolatey, like lava cake that could double as a weapon? The latter, he said without hesitation, sliding into a booth across from me. I enjoy a challenge. I snorted. You do realize you're basically inviting me to make a mess, right? I trust you'll rise to the occasion, he said, leaning back, eyes gleaming. Or at least, make it entertaining. I grinned, wagging a finger at him. Oh, it'll be entertaining. You're going to regret picking a seat across from me when I start demonstrating my professional dessert-eating techniques. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. I look forward to it. Especially if you accidentally get chocolate on your tie, I rolled my eyes. You're asking for it, Salaar. Don't say I didn't warn you. When the lava cake arrived, I went all in, spoonfuls flying, chocolate smudging my lips, and Salaar surprisingly laughed. Not the quiet smirk laugh I was used to, but full, low, genuine amusement. You're ridiculous, he said, reaching over to swipe a bit of chocolate from my cheek. His thumb brushed my skin, and my stomach did that familiar flip. Ridiculous? Me? I'm just talented, I teased, licking my lips with exaggerated flair. He shook his head, eyes twinkling. Talented? Yes. Dangerous, definitely. But I like it. I couldn't help but grin. The cafe felt smaller, warmer, like the rest of the world had been paused just for us. And for once, I didn't care about spilled coffee, misfiled reports, or the chaos I usually carried with me. Tonight, it was just Salaar, me, and a ridiculously chocolatey dessert. And honestly, I'd take this over office perfection any day. 3 weeks later, I was swooning. In love, perhaps. Salaar hadn't said the words, and neither had I, but the small moments between us had become a secret language. Every morning, I'd find a single red rose on my desk. No note, just the rose. And my heart would stutter every time I saw it. By lunch, I had started bringing food for both of us, painstakingly making his favorite. Turkey sandwiches with avocado, his black coffee exactly the way he liked it. I'd creep into his office, nervous as a teenager, blush heating my cheeks as he looked up from his reports. You made this? He asked softly, eyes lifting to mine, voice gentle, almost tender. I thought you might like it, I stammered, almost tripping over my words as my hands lingered too long on the plate. My stomach fluttered like crazy, and I had to keep reminding myself not to fall into the deep pool of gray eyes watching me. He leaned back in his chair, a smirk softening. It's perfect. Thank you, Dawson. That single, soft smile sent heat curling through me, and I realized I had been thinking about him like this. Always. By midweek, he had started insisting I come with him in his car to the office and back home. I'll give you a lift, he said one morning, voice low, teasing in that way that made my chest twist. We can spend a little more time together. Don't make me beg, I'd nodded dumbly, my thoughts scattered, heart hammering. Oh, okay, I'd whispered, fumbling my bag strap. I could barely keep my composure, imagining being alone with him in that sleek, black car. But one afternoon, Mia, always hovering, caught sight of me leaving the building with Salaar. Her gasp, loud enough for a few nearby colleagues to hear, made my stomach drop. The next day, whispers started. Did you see Dawson leaving with Salaar last night? Bet he's sleeping his way up, isn't he? I froze mid-coffee pour, spilling a few drops onto my hand. My face burned, fingers trembling. How could this happen? Everything we were doing had been private, tender, slow. And now it was twisted into some scandal. Salaar had gone to another branch for inspection for a week. I tried calling Salaar that night, heart thudding, voice shaking, but he didn't answer. I left texts, long messages I reread a dozen times before sending, each one pleading for him to explain, to defend me. Nothing. The silence cut deeper than the whispers ever could. Every unanswered call, every unread message felt like a betrayal. I couldn't tell if I was being punished, or worse, if he didn't care. My hands shook as I packed my desk silently, people gossiping loudly, every paper and pen feeling like a weight dragging me down. I tried avoiding them completely, walking past the whispered gossip with my head low. My mind is mocking me. How could I have let myself fall so quickly, so completely, for someone I barely dared to touch in daylight? Was I just a fling? Was every smile, every stolen glance, every late-night coffee a lie? My chest hurt with humiliation, a combination of the office rumors and the unbearable ache of wanting him and being rejected, or at least, ignored. The thought of facing him again made my stomach turn. I wanted to scream, to cry, to run away from this entire mess I had fallen into. And so I left, a quiet exit from the office that had been both my battlefield and my sanctuary for the past year, carrying my confusion, shame, and heartbreak with me. Even walking through the city streets, feeling the night air on my flushed face, I couldn't stop thinking about him, about us. My clumsy, racing heart betrayed me again and again. I knew I had lost him, or at least I thought I had. Days later, I didn't go to work the next day, or the day after. My phone was a graveyard of unanswered calls and unread messages from Salaar. I'd stare at the screen every few minutes, waiting for a new notification that never came. Eventually, I stopped trying. I told myself I was done, but the truth, I wasn't. That evening, I was sprawled on my couch, mind numb, scrolling through Instagram with no purpose when the headlines stopped me cold. Salaar Chase was seen leaving Royal High's hotel with stunning model Clara. Are they dating? My stomach dropped. I froze, thumb hovering over the screen. The photo was grainy but unmistakable. Salaar, my Salaar, walking beside a tall brunette woman in a glittering dress. Flashbulbs exploded around them. He wasn't touching her, but she was smiling like she'd won. I clicked his Instagram, desperate for a sign. Nothing. His page was empty of anything recent, just corporate posts and architecture shots. My chest eased slightly, but then, stupidly, I checked her page. There it was, the newest post. Clara, kissing Salaar's cheek, her lipstick bright red against his jaw. Caption, mine, heart emoji. I dropped my phone. It landed face down on the rug, but the image burned behind my eyes. I'd trusted him. Despite everything, his silence, his walls, I'd believed that under all of it, what we had was real. But seeing that photo felt like a knife. Tears came before I could stop them. Angry, ugly tears that made my chest ache. I stayed like that, staring at the ceiling for what felt like hours. I didn't eat, didn't move. By the next morning, I decided it was over. I wasn't going to humiliate myself any further. Without confronting him, I drafted my resignation. Short, cold, detached. I mailed it to HR and CC'd Salaar. It took less than a minute for a reply to hit my inbox. Rejected, no explanation, no formality, just one word. Unbelievable, I muttered, swiping at my face as anger bubbled again. He ignored me for days, let me drown in gossip, and now he wouldn't even let me walk away. I didn't call, I didn't text, I didn't even want to see his name anymore. But that night, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Salaar, again and again, until I turned it off. The rain came late that evening, steady and relentless, like the sky was trying to wash the world clean. I curled up on the couch, half asleep, until a sharp knock echoed through the apartment. At first I ignored it. Then it came again, louder. When I finally opened the door, my breath caught. Salaar stood there, soaked to the bone, his hair plastered to his forehead, shirt clinging to his chest. No suit, no armor, just him. "Jordan," he breathed out, voice hoarse. I didn't let him speak. "Don't," I snapped, tears already burning my throat. "You don't get to show up after everything. After letting me be humiliated, after making me think I was nothing." "Jordan, no," my voice cracked. "You vanished." Everyone was whispering, saying I slept my way into promotions, and you... I pressed my fist to my chest. "You said nothing. You let them destroy me." He took a step forward. I stepped back. "I was alone, Salaar. And you were busy." I swallowed, voice trembling. "You were busy letting some model kiss you in front of the damn world." That one hit him. His jaw tightened. "That wasn't..." "Don't you dare lie," I whispered, as more tears, angry ones, rolled down my face. "You left me alone. I shouldn't have allowed this in the first place. I am an idiot to let it happen. I was shaking, tears spilling freely, when he suddenly crossed the space between us and yanked me against him. "Shut the fuck up," he said roughly, and before I could push him away, his mouth was on mine. It wasn't gentle, it wasn't practiced. It was desperate, messy, punishing, the kind of kiss that felt like an argument and an apology all at once. My hands instinctively went to his chest to shove him away, but the second I felt his heartbeat, rapid and unsteady under my palms, my resolve wavered. "Now stay quiet and listen to me," he muttered through his ragged breath, rainwater dripping from his hair onto my face. His voice dropped to a whisper. "I didn't leave you, Jordan. I was protecting you." I blinked through the blur of tears. "Protecting me?" I scoffed. "By ignoring me?" He exhaled slowly. "That rumor, it wasn't random. It was planned. Clara, the woman in that photo, our families arranged our engagement over a year ago. But I ended it 6 months after meeting you." My breath caught. He continued, voice low and steady. "She couldn't handle rejection. She had her friend, Mia, apply at the firm to keep tabs on me. And when she realized I'd fallen for you, she started the gossip, hoping you'd back away yourself." My head spun. "Mia?" He nodded. "I didn't say anything because I needed proof. I wanted her gone, but I couldn't act without evidence. So I stayed silent while I tore down every person who fed that rumor. HR, admin, every single one of them. They're gone now, Jordan." His hand found mine, squeezing gently. "I wasn't ignoring you. I was fixing what they broke." My chest ached all over again, but this time, differently. His gray eyes softened. "You weren't a fling," he said quietly. "You were the first mistake I didn't want to fix." I stared at him, trembling, torn between anger and relief. Then he reached up, thumb brushing a tear off my cheek. "I'm sorry for letting you feel alone. I'm sorry for not telling you sooner, but I needed you to be safe first." I wanted to yell again, to demand why he didn't just trust me with the truth. But then he leaned closer, forehead against mine, whispering, "I missed you so damn much." And just like that, the fight bled out of me. My voice cracked when I finally whispered, "You're an idiot." He smiled faintly. "I know." When he kissed me again, it was slow, aching, reverent. My fingers curled into his wet shirt, dragging him closer as if the space between us was the only thing keeping me from breathing. His lips moved with that same precision he used in everything he did, except this time it wasn't control, it was a surrender. The rain outside blurred into a steady rhythm, the world narrowing, down to the sound of our breaths and the quiet hum of something finally righting itself. He lifted me effortlessly, my arms around his neck, my heart hammering as he deepened the kiss. Every inch of him was warmth, even soaked and shivering. The taste of rain and relief mixed on his lips, and for the first time in weeks, I wasn't angry. I was home. When we finally broke apart, he pressed his forehead to mine and whispered, "No more secrets. No more silence." I nodded, smiling through the tears. Just us. He exhaled shakily, resting his hand over my heart. Always. And as the storm raged outside, we stood there, drenched, messy, broken, and whole, choosing each other all over again. Epilogue. 3 months later. It's been 3 months since that night. Since the rain, the tears, and the confession that turned my world upside down in the best way possible. 3 beautiful months of rediscovering what peace feels like. Salaar had made sure of that. He didn't just mend the cracks, he made me feel like I'd never been broken. I was halfway through fixing my tie when my phone buzzed on the dresser. Instagram notification. Salaar Chase posted after 6 months. Check it out. My hands froze. Salaar barely posted anything. Curious, I tapped the notification, and my breath caught in my throat. It was a picture of him kissing me, at one of our late-night dates. My hands tangled in his hair, both of us laughing into the kiss like idiots who didn't care about the world. The caption read, "To the man who spilled wine on my soul and filled it with something better, love." I just stood there, staring at my reflection with my heart pounding against my ribs. He'd made it public. Salaar Chase, the man who lived in headlines and whispered rumors, just claimed me in front of everyone. By the time I arrived at the gala, my thoughts were a mess of nerves and excitement. The lights, the crowd, the cameras. It was all too loud, but my eyes searched only for him. Peter spotted me first, smiling as he handed me a glass of wine. "Hey, Jordan, alone tonight?" I smiled awkwardly. Yeah, just taking in the chaos." He chuckled, trying to make conversation, but my gaze kept drifting past him. Every suit, every shadow, every movement, I was looking for him. Eventually, I excused myself, murmuring something about needing air. I turned a corner, a little too quickly. My foot caught the edge of the carpet, and before I knew it, the wine tilted, again. Red liquid splashed across a familiar charcoal suit. I froze. He looked down at the stain, then up at me, and that slow, dangerous smirk curved on his face. The same one from our first meeting months ago. Salaar's voice dropped low, warm, teasing. "We'll discuss this spill. Right now." My mouth went dry. "Salaar, I swear I didn't." But he didn't let me finish. His hand found mine, fingers lacing tightly as he led me through the back corridor. The noise of the gala faded behind us, replaced by the soft hum of our footsteps and the wild rhythm of my heart. When the door to the private suite clicked shut, the silence between us was thick, electric. He turned, his eyes dark with something deeper than desire. I backed up till my shoulders brushed the door, breath shallow. He leaned in, his breath ghosting my lips. "Strip, baby. It's time you pay back for the spill." I swallowed, my hands trembling, not from fear, but from that same old pull he had over me. "You're impossible," I whispered. He smiled against my skin. "You love that about me." His lips brushed mine once, twice, soft, lingering kisses that deepened with every breath. My hands found his chest, feeling the steady thump of his heart beneath the fabric. Every inch of distance between us dissolved until all that was left was warmth, need, and the kind of love that didn't need words. The night blurred, slow, tender, and achingly familiar. Later, when we finally caught our breath, Salaar's hand traced lazy circles against my back. "You still haven't told me," he murmured. "Do you love me, Jordan?" I turned to look at him, my throat tight, eyes soft. "More than you can think." His smile was small but real, the kind that reached his eyes. "Good, because I don't plan on letting you go." Ever and lying there, tangled up in him on the bed, I knew he meant it. The world outside could talk, could judge, could spin 1,000 stories, but none of it mattered anymore. Because for once, I wasn't just Salaar's assistant or a rumor in someone's mouth. I was his choice, his heart, his forever. 3 quiet weeks of rediscovering what peace feels like. Salaar had made sure of that. He didn't just mend the cracks, he made me feel like I'd never been broken. The end. Have you ever fallen for someone you were supposed to keep things strictly professional with? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.